In early January of 2019, the Florida Maquis began releasing a series of videos, the most popular of which is titled, "A Coming Unforeseen Event Will Change the Landscape of the U.S. Forever." Now, this was a full year before the pandemic hit. The allegation that I made in the videos caught a lot of people off guard. The allegation was this: if the U.S. were ever to face some type of what they refer to as shit hits the fan event, one of the things that would begin to happen is governors and mayors would start releasing prisoners en masse. Why? Well, prisons are very expensive, and they require a lot of security forces to maintain. And during an event like this, they would need to redirect those security forces to areas that are much more important. Plus, they would need the money. Now, the end result of this would be prisoners leaving states like California, Texas, Florida, New York, and heading for the middle of the country. Why? Well, primarily, that's where the easiest targets would be. Those smaller states out in the middle would have very few security forces, and the ones that they did have would be allocated toward protecting government officials and banks, and those kind of out in the middle would be left to fend for themselves. Now, many said, well, we have our weapons, not realizing that these prisoners are very savvy. They're intelligent, and they would know how to weasel their way in to survival groups. And once having access to the food and the weapons, they would then turn on the people that had trusted them. And it would only take a few events like this to take what were basically just common thugs and turn them into powerful cartels. 28 February 2022. Democrat governor of New Jersey releases nearly 40% of inmates and threatens to fire 60% of its prison staff. Now, mark my words, when these inmates get out, they're not going to hang around in New Jersey, and no, they're not heading for the cities. Many said, oh, Florida Maquis, they'll never release them. They'll never release them. They'll gas them. Well, we have proof now that's not the case. And to give credit where credit is due, that piece of information comes to us from Jennifer Veterans for Truth. This is one of her more popular videos, Mandatory Evacuation Event. Now what you are not being told. Also, to answer a question from yesterday's video, people have come to me and said, Florida Maquis, I agree with you. With Russia controlling 75% of the world's fertilizer supply, we may face food shortages if they decide to retaliate for President Joe Biden's sanctions. But I'm facing kind of a problem. You see, the best per serving costs come from these large food supply warehouses, but they need you to buy $200, $300, $400 at a time. Florida Maquis, I don't have an extra $300 or $400 in my budget every month. What can I do? And besides that, these packages come in huge serving portions, meaning when I open up one of these pouches, that pouch is now, quote unquote, on the clock. It's going to start to go bad unless I have the ability to eat 50 servings of home-style potato soup. It's not going to work for me. What can I do to prepare that's not going to break the bank? Well, I've done some research for you. And this is just one option. Now, I've looked through all of the per ounce costs of things. And these are two things I found on Amazon that will save you a ton of money and give you something wholesome and good and delicious to eat for not a lot of money. Now, you have to buy it in a specific way. On the left, we have Betty Crocker Bisquick Complete Biscuit Mix for buttermilk biscuits. It says it makes 6 biscuits. It makes really about 4. But that's fine. If you buy it in the 9-pack, it'll run you about $13, and Libby's Country Sausage Gravy for a 12 pack of 15-ounce cans will run you about $18. So you're talking about $31 to get a 12 pack of this and a 9 pack of this. Now, $31. What do you get? Well, 4 biscuits. It says 6, but it's really more like 4. Times 9, you get 36 biscuits. The sausage gravy, 1 can. It's very thick gravy. You can add a little water to it and make it stretch, or even a little milk. You can get about 2 servings per can. So you'll have about 30 servings, 15 cans, of the sausage gravy and 36 biscuits. It'll come out to about $1, $1 per serving. And it's a decent amount of gravy and a couple of biscuits per person. You could have a wonderful, nice, hearty, stick-to-your-ribs breakfast, a couple of biscuits, and a good portion of sausage gravy for $1. And like I said, you don't have to buy hundreds of dollars worth of this stuff. The 9-pack of the Bisquick mix is, I want to get this right, one is 13 and one is 18. So it comes up to just a little over $30. But you could feasibly have biscuits and gravy every single morning for an entire month for $30. For $1 a day. That's a pretty good deal. It really is. And since you don't have to buy a whole bunch at once, and you can open 1 can of gravy at a time, you can open 1 package of biscuits at a time, it'll keep. It'll keep, and if necessary, it's something you can barter with, having small amounts. Now, I would not recommend, in your normal daily life, unless you're extremely active, having biscuits and gravy every single morning for breakfast, but in a survival situation, it beats nothing. If you're doing things like one of my viewers does at the Patriot Games here in Florida, like lifting 350 pounds worth of barbells and walking 100 meters with them, then yes, by all means, have biscuits and gravy every morning. But this is kind of what Floridians do for fun. We have our own versions of strongman events. And I just wanted to share this and kind of get this out. Tim Bassett, Timbazet on Instagram. A lot of great advice. A lot of great workout tips. Walks the walk, talks the talk. Great guy. And also, once again, Jennifer, Veterans for Truth, thank you for the information showing that we were absolutely correct. This is what's going to happen, and mark my words, this is where they're all going to turn up, out in the middle. Now, I would recommend, if you have it within your ability to do, to eat as many fruits and vegetables and nuts and honey and this type of thing in your diet as you can, because, of course, that's the healthiest way to go. Not always available, but once again. In other news, I'm sure many of you have seen this staged event that they tried to pull on the governor at the University of Southern Florida. He was showing up and he was going to have a press conference, and there were some kids there, high school, getting ready to go into college, and they decided to play the mask game theater. Because, of course, they were going to be standing behind him. And he wasn't having it. And he said, no, sorry. Y'all need to take these masks off. Even the CDC, Biden says most folks indoors no longer need them. A couple of the guys did, couple didn't, but it was a staged event. And I'll be very honest with you. This is how a man should speak to young men. A grown man should speak to young men. When they're being and acting ridiculous, they need to be called out for it. And if you call this bullying at this age, getting ready to go into college, you are not going to be able to handle what the real world has in store for you. And that's, of course, what the left is trying to do, saying that Governor DeSantis bullied a bunch of high school kids. These young men are getting ready to go to college. If they can't handle somebody saying, look, you're being ridiculous. Come on now. Grow up. Act like a man. If they can't handle that, they're in trouble. Also, some of you have asked this question about the Florida militia. We call it the Florida State Guard. It is basically the Florida militia. This was, of course, the flag. The response that Governor DeSantis gave to the State of the Union, all he did was put up a flag of this. Florida State Guard, let us alone. And that was a message to all of us to get ready. If you want to get ready, if you want to be prepared for what's coming, join us over at Patreon. $1 per month, not per video, not per week. Fully refundable. Fully refundable. If the training is too intense for you, if you're still kind of a slave to your emotions and you get blown about by the wind of doctrine, I'll give you your $1 back. It's not a problem. It's even less than that if you sign up for an entire year. It comes out to like 3 pennies a day. Many people have joined us over here. Down in the comments, you will see testimonials. It is the next phase in training. If you want to get a hold of your mind and not be caught up in all of this garbage that's going on right now, join us. We would love to have you. Now, I'm going to go through some things that you should do if you are truly going to follow along with the Biden agenda. First thing you need to do is you need to get rid of all beef stroganoff products in your house. Florida Maquis, what are you talking about? Well, beef stroganoff is a Russian dish. And as we know, anything associated with Russia is automatically associated with Putin. Therefore, if you're eating or having beef stroganoff, you are then anti-Ukraine and you don't stand with Ukraine. And that does go for all of you out there who have all of these ready food supplies. Virtually everyone has a beef stroganoff meal. So you need to get rid of that immediately. Otherwise, you're anti-Ukraine. We have a story out of Florida here that is one of the most disappointing I've heard in a long time. Publix has decided they're not going to sell Russian vodka anymore, as if that changes anything. What most people don't know about a place like Publix is that the vodka that's on their shelves has already been bought and sold twice. Meaning that there was a wholesaler that bought it and then sold it to a distributor who bought it and then sold it to Publix. So it's just virtue signaling, and it's really disappointing. But once again, any Russian-made vodkas mean that you stand with Putin and you don't stand with Ukraine. So therefore, you're for invasions. Oh, and this one's going to disappoint a lot of you. YouTube should take down all videos where there are Siberian Huskies. Why? Siberian Huskies are Russian dogs. And of course, that would mean you are virtue signaling your alliance with Putin. In fact, perhaps you should just euthanize the dogs. They're eating up your dog food anyway, and that's costing you too much money. And as you know, that just pushes a Russian agenda, doesn't it? Anyone out there who still has Rocky IV, you need to go and delete all scenes where Ivan Drago is punching Rocky and only show scenes where Rocky is punching back. See, this will be inappropriate. This is part of the Putin agenda. And see, this would be pro-Joe Biden right here. In fact, don't even watch Rocky. It's too confusing. All you should watch from now on are back-to-back plays of Red Dawn and Red Dawn the remake. These are the only videos that you should ever watch because it shows the proper attitude the government has instructed you to have toward Russia. This is all you should think about. Oh, and Nana, Grammy, you need to go over to her house and make sure she doesn't have any Matryoshka around. You know, the little nesting dolls? You know, that you don't want her to get in trouble not knowing. So make sure you go and you go through all of her antiques and her little knickknacks and you go out. Make sure you go out in the driveway with a camera and you bust them right on the cement for people to see that you stand with Ukraine. Oh, and more importantly, anything having to do with Sofia Vergara or Alexander Skarsgård, you need to absolutely not have anything to do with. Wait a minute, Maki. I've got you. I've got you right there. Sofia Vergara, she's Colombian, and Alexander Skarsgård is Swedish. This doesn't have anything to do with Russia. Well, Alexander and Sofia are the two most popular names in Russia. So really, Vergara should start going by her middle name. Even though she's Colombian, she should go by her middle name, Margarita. And Alexander Skarsgård should now start going by his middle name, Johan, so that they can virtue signal their alliance with Ukraine. Otherwise, they are just perpetuating a Russian stereotype that we don't need. Isn't this overreacting? Really? Well, the Germans are seizing Russian billionaires' mega yachts, Alisher Usmanov, an independent private citizen. So are the French. They've seized a yacht of private citizens. So tell me how this isn't overreacting. Everything I've just said you should do. And while we're at it, maybe we should reopen internment camps. I mean, that's what the Democrats did back in World War II. We had the issue with Pearl Harbor and what was going on with Europe. It's time to just broad brush everyone and reopen the camps. Because that is exactly the direction that Democrats go whenever there's anything that requires thought. Anything that might require you to use judgment and say, wait a minute, hold on. That doesn't make any sense. See, it doesn't matter that she's Colombian and he's Swedish. Nope. Just the names, Sofia and Alexander, are too Russian. Older women, collectors of antiques, should not be allowed to have Matryoshka. You should only watch Red Dawn. You should never, never watch any scene where it shows a Russian hitting an American. Never, ever. And you just need to go find your puppy dog and say goodbye. Take him down to the vet, have him euthanized, because it's a Siberian Husky. And that's Russian. Get rid of all the Russian vodka. And definitely, under no circumstances, should anyone ever eat beef stroganoff ever again. Now, do you see how ridiculous it is? It is absolutely and totally ridiculous. If you want to get a hold of your mind, join us at Patreon. $1 per month. That's it. And if you do your homework, you can find a way to eat for $1 per meal. And let me say, don't eat this stuff 3 meals a day. But in a survival situation, having the ability to feed somebody a hearty breakfast, a stick to your ribs kind of breakfast for $1 per person, big deal. And just to let you know, I have bought this stuff and I've made it here. That's how I know that it says 6 biscuits. If you make six biscuits, they're super tiny biscuits. It's really 4. The best way to do this is actually to make 2 or 3 packages at once. It comes out, if you put it in a nice normal sheet pan, it'll cover the whole thing and it'll make a nice biscuit flat, for lack of a better term, that you can cut into 12 even biscuits. So you make 3 of these, you open 3 cans of gravy, and you can divvy this up as much as you want. And honestly, for what this comes out to be $1 per person, you will not do better. Unless you have hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and you won't compete with this. Of course, the per serving costs here are down in the 3 and 4 and 5 cent range, but you've got to buy hundreds of dollars worth. And some people don't have that ability. So anyway, keep your eyes open, keep your head on a swivel. God bless. Pray for each other, lift each other up, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.